secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but building the new. A quote by Socrates. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerdy Optometrist, a podcast channel for all things optometry. And this is your host, Ukti Bora. Today, we are going to do a little shift because my guest is not an optometrist, but an ophthalmologist who I feel has a lot for all of us that we all can learn from. It's a privilege and honor to have Dr. Don Nguyen, a board certified ophthalmologist and a glaucoma specialist, to be as a guest for this special episode. He attended the University of Oklahoma for undergrad and medical school. His ophthalmology training includes residency at the University of Texas Health Sciences Center in San Antonio and a glaucoma fellowship at the Beers Eye Institute at Stanford. His areas of interest include combining cataract with minimal invasive glaucoma surgery, differentiating high myope from glaucoma using advanced imaging modalities for early detection and evidence-based medicine for more precise treatment of glaucoma. He enjoys connecting with his patients on a personal level and catering each individual treatment plan to their own level of disease and situation. This definitely shows we have a lot to learn from him, especially in the space of glaucoma as well as myopia. Dr. Nguyen has been trained to comprehensively treat and manage all glaucoma in a variety of ways, including medication, lasers, and surgeries. He also enjoys performing cataract surgery to help restore vision for patients. In his spare time, he enjoys spending time with his family and eating at local eateries. We're going to definitely focus on this part at the end of the podcast. And not to mention that he is a member of American Academy of Ophthalmology and American Glaucoma Society. Thank you so much, Dr. Nguyen, for being guest on this podcast, and welcome to the Nerdy family.
Thank you, Dr. Moore, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Wonderful. So I'm going to go to my favorite question, which I usually like to understand. How did you bump into ophthalmology, eye care? Like, tell us a little more about your background and your story there.
So ophthalmology was not on the radar at all. Typically, I was going to med school thinking I would do family medicine or internal medicine. And I remember during like a first year clerkship, we had an ophthalmology day. And I remember walking out of the room thinking, who would do that? Who would want to do that? It's so boring. But I think a lot of your career path is shaped by the people that you're around and the kind of the mentors and influences you had. But I used to take my cousin's grandma to the doctor because I had a lot of free time in the summer, and I was the cousin that they would always call and ask me. So I took her to an ophthalmology appointment actually once, and I was really impressed by the doctor that was taking care of her. And I just kept his card in my car. And, when third year came around and after taking boards, I was just thinking about, the typical decision tree is surgery versus medicine. And so once I decided I was more interested in doing surgery, I started looking at the surgical subspecialties. And, I had his card in my car still one day, and I just looked down at it and I just decided to call him and ask him just randomly if I could come shadow him. And he said yes. He was really gracious, and I guess the rest is history. I kind of fell in love with it after that.
It's a nice and refreshing to hear that even you bumped into the profession which you felt you were not going to be part of, because majority of my guests that I do discuss and talk about optometry as well, they do also have that, optometry was nowhere even close to my radar. This was probably something I saw somewhere, or I just bumped into it. And I'm glad to see even it's same for you. So it's interesting how eye care is so might not be in anybody's like priority list, but as soon as we get into it, there is no looking back.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, focusing about your practice, you did mention you're doing a lot in the space of glaucoma. I do know that you're doing more in surgical space, but tell us a little more about your practice and how does it look like?
We have a multi-subspecialty group. We've got 4 dedicated general ophthalmologist cataract surgeons. There's 1 oculoplastic surgeon that works part-time. And then when I joined 4 years ago, I was the first glaucoma specialist they had to practice. And so far, I'm the only one. We are adding another glaucoma specialist that will join us after he completes his fellowship next year. But we also have cornea as well. My practice specifically is probably 75% glaucoma and 25% general. My surgical practice is typically about 50 to 60% just cataract, and the rest is either combined cataract and glaucoma or just glaucoma surgery.
As you mentioned, I'm really excited to even know that you are the first one as a glaucoma specialist and probably the only one right now, but you'll have more joining your team. But being a glaucoma specialist, and even when we see glaucoma patients in an optometry practice, we are all aware that how our patients are usually on some or the other medications for pretty much all their life. And the price that goes around it is something which is very difficult to cope up with. And that's where I feel the sponsor for this episode, Nanodropper, has done a fantastic job about creating an adapter which minimizes the size and optimizing the size of an eye drop. So can you share a little more about your introduction to Nanodropper and what are your thoughts about it from an actual clinical use case point of view?
Yes. So I also, stumbled across the Nanodropper very fortuitously. Embarrassed to admit it, but I was surfing Instagram on my phone, and I came across the Nanodropper ad, and it looked very interesting. I clicked it, I read about it, and I was like, wow, this product really addresses, an issue that all of our patients, glaucoma patients, have that use drops chronically. Basically everything. We always hear about cost, right? Patients, all day long we get, insurance denials due to cost, and the insurance a lot of times will dictate what we can prescribe to our patients, and so that part we all hate. We don't get to prescribe what we want all the time. We kind of have to play the insurance game. So I read about it and I was like, oh, I have to try this. So I direct messaged Nanodropper on Instagram. I said, hey, I want to try this, will you send me one? And so they did. They sent me one through the mail. I got it out. As soon as I got there, I had my techs in the room with me, say, hey guys, check this product out. So we got out a sample of I think it was Vyzulta or Lumigan something, and I took a sample and I just tested how many drops I could get out of the the manufacturer bottle, the factory bottle, and I think a 2.5 milliliter bottle gave me about 90 drops. We were counting every single drop that came out. So that's why I tell patients, if you're very good, this sample should last you at least a month, 45 days if you're perfect, right? And so then we put the Nanodropper on, and we did the same thing, and we were very meticulous at only getting one single drop out of each time that we squeezed the bottle, and we realized we got over 300 drops with the Nanodropper attached to it.
Wow.
And so I was sold at that point. And obviously we've known in the field for a long time that the size of the drops from the bottle, no matter which drug it's from, is way larger than what the patients need. They put the drop in, it floods their tear lake, it runs off on their cheek. All patients say that. And so, patients only need about 10% of the original drop volume to get the effective dose. And so that, essentially Nanodropper addresses that problem. So we're cutting back on waste, we're cutting back on costs. I tell patients, a Nanodropper will make a 1 month supply, if you're good, last at least 3 to 4 months. So it pays for itself there. And then I think most important to me is the side effects. We're reducing side effect profile because we're minimizing the amount of volume that's going into the eye. And a lot of times patients stop drops, not necessarily because it's too expensive, but because they can't tolerate it. The patients, it's working well, but their eyes, they're red, they're dry, they're irritated, especially if they're on multiple drops. And so Nanodropper really addresses all of those issues with compliance, cost, waste, and side effects. And so it was a perfect marriage in terms of the product with my patient population. And so I immediately ordered, I had my office manager order some, and I think she ordered like a box of, I can't remember, 20 or 30 or something like that. And I went through it in a week. And so I went through it in a week. So I honestly don't even, I don't think I make a conscientious effort to tell every single patient about it. But, when patients bring up something to me, they say something during our, appointment, during our conversation that triggers in my mind, oh, have I told you about Nanodropper? This is a product that, can do all these things for you. And that's it. I just say, hey, if you're interested, we have it here. And, oh, they're like, hey, where can I buy that? Which pharmacy? And I said, well, actually, we have it here. And so they're like, oh, perfect. And so it's just something that I think makes a ton of sense. Any patient that uses drops chronically would benefit. And so it's not necessarily, a lot of people have, reached out and said, hey, has Nanodropper affected your, the business side of the things? And to me, I honestly, I don't even think about that. I'm just worried about, hey, this is something that helps patients. So yeah, we might make a very small profit from selling the Nanodropper, but it just helps patients. And so that's the most important thing, is trying to keep patient first. And I've heard nothing but positive feedback from them about it.
That's awesome. I have to say a couple of things that you just mentioned and highlight that. I
Mhm.
myself actually found Nanodropper on Instagram. So
Oh,
for
really?
sure,
Yeah.
they're doing a good job of being on social media.
Yeah.
And the minute I saw that, I had the exact same feeling that, hey, this is so obvious, because I've heard this so many times. Forget patients at my house itself. Like my dad do have dry eye at times. And every time he'll use a drop, he's like, everything comes out, and he like keeps squeezing like drops and drops of it. I'm like, no, you
Right.
just need one drop, it's fine,
Yeah.
you got good enough of it. And it's hard
Yeah.
to explain them because they just feel everything is coming out, so it's not as effective, so they might end up using more drops than needed. And you
Right.
rightly pointed out that especially like when there are more medicated eye drops, say for patients in glaucoma, you
Mm.
want them to use it in the right proportion to avoid any wastage as well as side effects. What if they just keep on adding double drops thinking this is going to help them just because they
Yeah.
feel everything is coming out? So and that has been, I think, a very common complaint or a feedback from every
Mhm.
patient or family member any eye care provider has been surrounded with.
Yeah, it's something we all have heard. Every day we hear patients complain about it, and so, and understandably so. The cost of medications is going up, and it's tough. Patients, my patient population is older. They've got other medical problems to deal with. They've got other diseases, and so I hate having to add to that burden, the cost of doing this. But obviously it's very important. It's vision threatening disease, and so it has to be taken seriously. And I don't want them to have to ration their medication because of cost, or oh, because my eyes burn so bad when I use it. I only use it every other day, or it should be used 2 or 3 times a day. I just use it once a day because it burns. So I don't think the Nanodropper eliminates those things, but it certainly helps alleviate and lessens it to where it's more tolerable for the patient. So it's a great product.
Absolutely. I really loved how you actually mentioned briefly about these use cases of, since many times it might not really be about the cost, it could just be about convenience. And as you rightly mentioned, many patients might be on multiple medications and you don't want to make it add another hassle, but provide your treatment as hassle free. So I really liked how Nanodropper has this one simple solution as an adapter which goes on any eye drop bottles, and it can be used by the patient to not just help the patient minimize the like size of the drop, but also convenience and keep them more compatible with the treatment plan versus having a fear of dropouts. It just
Yeah,
because they just feel it's, oh my god, another hassle that I have to take care of.
yeah, absolutely.
And I really liked another piece that you had mentioned a bit earlier about the ROI. I feel anytime anybody is trying to add any new thing in the office, they might think, what's my return on investment? But
Mhm.
the fact that you're coming up with a solution for the patient is always going to help you to provide something which maybe someone else has not ever offered. And that might not be like a huge margin of profits right up there, but
Yeah.
it can help you in the long run, because now they feel that as a doctor you do care about them beyond just a prescription. And
So yeah, I mean, patients appreciate that we're taking time to, you have to put yourself in their shoes, think about not just like, hey, don't just get angry at them for not using their drops correctly or not being compliant, and just trying to be show some empathy, understand that sometimes it's difficult. I mean, we're doctors are probably the worst patients themselves. I know I am. I don't, I'm supposed to wear a mouth guard every night for my dentist and I don't. So just kind of put them in that, in their shoes, understanding the patient's perspective. And I think they really appreciate that. And I've heard nothing but positive things about that once patients adapt the Nanodropper. And another thing too, if doctors are worried about explaining that to the patient, if you does it disrupt your clinic flow at all, having to explain this, oh, by the way, on the way out, So, I have a scribe and a lead tech, and so he's heard kind of my spiel. So every single time, when I tell patients, I generally tell them the same exact thing about it. And so, he's heard me say it so many times. So you can train your staff to do the same thing. They can, intercept them during, workup, during triage, when patients complain, to your technicians, oh, well, we have a product here called Nanodropper, and just train the staff, have the staff talk to them, have them reinforce to the patient. By the time they get to you, the patient can, just ask you, hey, your staff told me about Nanodropper, what do you think? And so it becomes a much more brief, succinct conversation at that point. Or, on the way, I'll talk to my scribe. I'll say, hey, Frank, can you tell, Mrs. So-and-so about Nanodropper? And yes, I'll take care of it. And so, it doesn't have to be like a huge chair time killer. It just, I think it's, once you get down, your clinic's used to it, that it can be very efficient and, again, really, really benefit the patient.
I think this is a great point that you highlighted of, training the staff. And as you have also shared in your experience, Nanodropper itself is not really a game-changing technology or something where you'll have to add a lot more effort. It could be just like, say, lid cleansers for dry eye patients, how you prescribe them, or say for compressions for dry eye. It is a similar kind of a product that in your clinic, and it's easier to learn. It's literally like maybe 3 sentences that you could say, and another 3 to kind of help explain it better to the patient. If they have any questions from your staff, could kind of suffice the entire conversation about what Nanodropper does itself.
Right.
I know we did talk a lot about glaucoma, but is it just used by you in the clinic, or what is about opinion about other doctors? Do they use it for their
Nanodropper? I think I'm probably the biggest user of it, just because the glaucoma patient population that are using drops chronically. But I think the cornea docs, patients that their patients, their transplant patients that are on steroids, also chronic steroids after a transplant. We also have a combination bottle that compounded by Imprimis for post-op cataract surgery patients, and I believe the Nanodropper also fits on that. Oftentimes patients will run out before we want them to complete their their post-op cataract surgery drops, the taper, and so that also helps decrease the waste of the drops that are compounded by Imprimis.
I loved it that how you highlighted it can be used for like multiple use cases. Another quick question I have: do you also use it in your practice? Because we do use eye drops as well, right? For our own sake.
I hadn't initially thought about that, but I think my staff did it themselves. So we typically give a topical NSAID like Prolensa after SLT. And so I've noticed our staff has put Nanodropper on that to also extend the life of those jobs. It makes a ton of sense to do that too. We don't want to be wasteful if we can avoid that. So.
Wonderful. So I feel Nanodropper itself sounds like a perfect solution for not just patients, but also practitioners. And I had the exact same feeling, and it feels so nice that you have kind of confirmed of my thoughts about that product.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're not even. I think the team, the Nanodropper, that team that came up with the idea. I think her name was Alyssa. I don't believe she's in ophthalmology. I think she's a medical student, and so I was just like really, really impressed by her idea, because we've known about this problem for a long time. We've asked the pharmaceutical companies to adjust the bottles to decrease waste, and it just hasn't happened. So I'm glad that somebody took this issue in their own hands and came up with something that can really help both patients and doctors with this problem.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel that I did briefly talk to 2 or 3 members of the team, and none of them have any background or any history of eye care or like optometry, and they just found this problem, and they're like, "Why is there no solution out of it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we all know about it, but we never thought about it. We were so involved in like the other part of the treatment that we forgot coming up with a simple solution." For sure, even I had very similar feelings, thinking that this is such a quick and easy solution to the problem. So we did talk a lot about the good side about Nanodropper and how it has helped your practice and your patients. Anything that was a roadblock, or any issues, any challenges that you faced with Nanodropper?
I mean, the only thing is that it's not universal to all drops. You know, a
Mhm.
lot of patients, I think the only patients that were upset were if they were sold one and it didn't fit their bottle, or they had, you know, they had issues with, the silicone tip came off or something like that. And, that's something that's easily addressed. I typically just have them come back in and we just replace it, free of
Mm.
charge. And, or if it didn't fit their bottle, we just refund them the money. But, now we're a lot more careful. We know which bottles it does definitely fits and which ones that it doesn't. And so I wish, they had more designs that were more universal, especially to the generic drops, like the more common drops like latanoprost or dorzolamide, that those are, probably the two of the most medications that most of my patients are on. And so it doesn't fit those. Um, that's probably the main thing I can think of. How about you? Have you run into any particular issues with it or?
No, I haven't, but I definitely know I did speak to them, and I do know that they are working on, having different designs just to address this exact same problem. So yes, I'm also happy to share that if this is the only problem that you faced,
Mhm.
then there is definitely a solution coming up, and I'm going to look out for what's happening new and more with Nanodropper. So we
Yeah.
might have more products and more solutions for this problem as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I'm excited about that because a ton of patients are on generics, and I don't have a great solution for them yet. But hopefully, in the near future, they'll have more designs that will fit more bottles.
Absolutely. So we did talk a lot about your practice, about Nanodropper, and how I feel, and even you agree that this should be a product in every office if possible, just to add another layer of solution that you can provide to your patients as well as use it yourself to save some eye drop wastage for sure. So we're going to now segue into my favorite segment, which is a game segment where we're going to talk about I'm going to throw in some rapid fire questions, and I want you to tell me the first answer that comes to your mind. Make sure
Okay.
it's rapid fire, so it has to be quick. Okay.
Oh gosh, I'm scared. Okay.
All right. Don't worry. It's going to be a fun thing. So, nothing to be scared of for sure. Okay.
Okay.
So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Perfect. So, we go with the first question. Which is your favorite destination?
Hawaii.
Hawaii. Oh, I love that too. Fun fact, I did live in Hawaii for 2 months. So,
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah, I love
your
Hawaii.
favorite food or cuisine?
Vietnamese food.
Vietnamese. Any, I love the sandwiches for sure. I love Vietnamese
Yeah,
sandwiches.
I'm biased. I'm Vietnamese, so that's why. If you asked me when I was in high school, I'd say pizza, but your taste changes. So it
I'm sure Vietnamese is a comfort food. So,
is.
we
It
drift
is.
away but come back to comfort food for sure. Favorite movie or series?
Favorite movie?
Mhm.
I don't know if I have a favorite movie. Forrest Gump.
All right. If you had a superpower, what would you want that power to be?
Gosh, fly, I guess.
And go to Hawaii. Okay, awesome. If you were to interview someone dead or alive, do you know who that one would be? And what would be the question?
Gosh, that's a tough one.
Just
Like,
anyone that you would want to interview, or
who do I want to interview?
just one question, or just if you would like to have a chat with someone.
I guess Michael Jordan, I guess. He's like
Mhm.
my favorite, like, athlete or role model growing up. I'm not sure what I would ask him though. Secret to success, even though I already know what he would say. I've watched like every interview about him. So how does he, find, motivation to continue to, excel in life, that he continued with every step in life he had to, motivate himself to be the best at whatever he was doing. So I guess I'd just like to see, I just want a picture with him, honestly.
Okay, so
I
we'll go with that. I don't. It's okay if you don't have a question, but you would like to interview or sit across and maybe
just want
have
a selfie with
some.
Michael Jordan. I want him like dunking on me or something. That'd be great.
That All right, so we'll go with that. So we do have an answer of Michael Jordan for sure. Awesome. If we were to write an autobiography about your journey, what would you like the title to be?
Oh gosh. Autobiography about me. Pass. I don't know. I don't know what the title would be. The kid who dreamed big. Is this? I would just say that, I guess.
That's a great title, to be honest. So I think you nailed it.
I couldn't think of anything.
But that is motivational. That is definitely amazing. So good to know. One last question for this rapid fire. I'll make sure it's not too tough.
Make it easy. Make it easy. I
Make
like.
it easy. Okay, if you were to change anything or add anything in the eye care industry overall, what do you think that one thing would be?
Change anything about the eye care industry. More easier access to newer technology.
Mhm.
Maybe that's maybe a good or a bad thing. How stringent the FDA is here at approving new devices or medicine, but I'm somewhat jealous of other like Canada, Europe. When they get to use newer products that are approved over there, and the United States is typically the last one to the show in terms of trying new, whether that's surgical devices, IOLs, things like that. So that's, I don't know if that's something I would change, or maybe something I'm jealous of. I guess I always want to be on the cutting edge and trying new things too. So
That's wonderful. Yeah, I'm pretty sure like now we're all looking for newer technologies and things are definitely changing in healthcare as well as in eye care. So we are hoping
yeah,
for
constantly
a
evolving. It's innovation is the competition between companies. I love it because at the center of it is patient care is improving, and if we the better that's better for us as as doctors, is that we get to advance that for patients. We're constantly trying to figure out ways to become more efficient, safer, quicker, things that will ultimately benefit patient care and outcomes, hopefully.
absolutely. And I think that is a wonderful answer to my final question of the rapid fire. So you did a great job there. Okay. So we're done with the rapid fire. Before I end this episode, one takeaway message that you would have or you would like to share with all my listeners.
Takeaway, I would say, to keep the patient in the center of all of our treatment decisions. Think about their perspective, think about their disease state, think about everything going on, treat them as a whole and not just as a disease. Think of them as human beings and individuals, and how you would want to be treated, how your own family member would want to be treated. And I think that's just like the golden rule. So as long as you kind of keep the focus on that, then I think good things will happen to you and your patients and in your practice.
Absolutely, I loved it. I actually read this uh, article which had this term patient centric a year ago, and that has just stuck with me forever, I feel. And I use this in every conversation that let's focus on making our care patient centric versus physician centric, where we
Yes.
are not the center of the care, the patient is, and everything should
Yeah.
go towards the patient. And I loved how you just said the exact same thing.
I think that makes the patient a real person, that not just a patient or a disease state, but also turn it around. That makes you a real person too, not just a doctor, but a person that's human and can make mistakes, can have failures, and you just I think that's part of I guess learning the art of medicine and evolving. We're so tough on ourselves, and it's hard for us to accept failure in anything. But I think taking a step back and letting yourself be human too helps keep us sane. I think we have a tough job sometimes, so sometimes you have to um, you know take a breather and understand that everybody's human. And
Loved how you're so passionate about patient care, and all you want everyone to keep in mind is things can change, life can be busy, we might be focusing on our practice or making it success overall, but don't forget about being human in the whole process. I think that
exactly, you summarized that much better than I did. Thank you.
I think you did a fantastic job in this entire episode. Thank you once again for your time. For all my listeners, I will be dropping in the link of Nanodropper. So if you are interested, and I highly, highly recommend all of you to do check it out, the Nanodropper, and see if that would be useful for you as well as your patients. Definitely worth a product to have in your office. As far as supporting Nerdy Optometrist, you can definitely find Nerdy Optometrist on all streaming platforms. You can also support me by buying me a coffee. There is an icon on my website which says, buy me a cup of coffee to support this episode, as well as you can leave me a review if you have enjoyed this or any of our episodes. With that, thank you so much, Dr. Win, for your time and insights. And it was a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thank you, Dr. Boris. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on your show. Appreciate it.